Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about what I believe are the least compatible zodiac signs that are least compatible with each other. Now, and it does apply and pertain to the sun, moon, and ascendant. So, anyway, first up is, well, I think Taurus and Leo are two of the most incompatible zodiac signs. Obviously, both are fixed signs. You have Taurus, very obstinate. Leo can be very willful, to say the least. Neither one likes to give in. Taurus is just flat out stubbornness. Leo, their pride conflicts with them in terms of admitting that they are wrong in a lot of situations, and Taurus will stubbornly hold on to something simply due to the fact they just don't want to give in. And the thing about it is, Taurus is very conservative, and Leo, of course, very extravagant. They could be almost completely opposite ends of the zodiac in terms of their perspective on finances. The thing about it is, Leo is a sign. I mean, they may be able to make an exorbitant amount of money in a relatively short, well, maybe not a relatively short period, but they can make a good amount of money in a good amount of time. But what happens is Leo can be very extravagant with their funds. And the thing about it is, Taurus, sadly, and especially if they're in a situation where they're very close friends or they're in some kind of relationship, sadly, I think Taurus may be the one that may have to bail Leo out, which comes in handy for Leo because Taurus is, of course, much more conservative with money on average and usually has something saved over, like a little nest egg or some security, so they can help in time of need, even though Taurus really doesn't even necessarily like to do it because they're not about spending more than what they actually have to, and Taurus will face those repercussions due to Leo's extravagance. And also, Leo will often bring unnecessary excitement into Taurus's life, and Taurus, of course, is very calm, very placid. They like things very peaceful and tranquil, and Leo just often thrives on drama and excitement. And on the other side of the coin, Leo may be averse to Taurus, given the fact that Leo does like the excitement and they like to do things a little bit more spontaneously than Taurus. They're obviously very gregarious, very extroverted, and Taurus is often a homebody and likes to have things very stable, just kind of stay-at-home person often. They could be almost a little bit too monotonous for Leo. Anyway, well, next up, as far as Virgo and Pisces, I think are definitely two. I mean, as far as least incompatible zodiac signs go, I mean, as far as incompatibility goes, they're right up there. I'll hear a number of stories of Virgo and Pisces people being so diametrically opposed. Now, in a love relationship, things could be different, but if it's an anti-love relationship, it's a platonic friendship, same sex, this is something where, I mean, there can be many issues. And even though they're mutable signs, these two signs often are really strongly in conflict, and they are, of course, opposed by sign. You could take one prime example. Now, many of you may have remembered when Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bryant were adversarial. Now, Kobe Bryant could be a Leo or Virgo depending on time of birth, but I think in all likelihood he is a Virgo. Shaquille O'Neal is a sun in Pisces. Both former NBA basketball players. Of course, Kobe sadly has passed away, but maybe Kobe might have had the problem with Shaquille O'Neal because Kobe and Virgo energy, and assuming he was a Virgo energy, of course, is very industrious energy. Pisces could be a little bit lethargic, and don't get me wrong, Shaquille O'Neal is a very hard worker. He was a very good basketball player. You don't put up 20, 30 points in a night because by just sitting around not doing anything. But I think what I theorize is that Kobe might have thought that Shaquille, his work ethic might not have been up to par, And I think probably what I'm thinking too is Shaquille O'Neal might have thought that Kobe might have been too critical and judgmental, and that's where you have the strong disparity between these two signs. Also, Pisces is more about the overall picture and seeing the whole picture of a person, very idealistic, trying to see the good and the best in others, often trying to overlook transgressions. When you have Virgo energy, of course, on the other side of the coin, Virgo will often be a little bit more judgmental and more critical, and that's where you can have that strong conflict between these signs. And some of you may remember, if I'm not mistaken, there was another battle between a Virgo and a Sun and Virgo, Sun and Pisces, Sun and Virgo, Sun and Pisces combo as well, when Stephon Marbury was NBA player, had played, former NBA player, played for the Knicks in the mid-2000s. Larry Brown was the coach. Larry Brown, I believe, was a Sun in Virgo, and they had been going at it. And I think Larry Brown might have come across as a little bit too cynical and critical for Stephon Marbury. Stephon Marbury was like, I'm not going to put up with your stuff, and he might have been a little bit too sensitive to the criticism of Larry Brown. So there you go. Now, the next combination I want to talk about as far as least compatible zodiac signs go, the zodiac sign Cancer and Capricorn. Now, of course, they could be very compatible in a romantic relationship, a significant other scenario. But when you're talking about energy other than that, these two, like Virgo and Pisces, of course, could be very adversarial and downright diametrically opposed. You talk about Cancer is so dominated by the emotional outlook of things and their sensitivity, being very sensitive to criticism and ridicule. And you have Capricorn, which can come across, of course, as rather cold or callous and undemonstrative. That is really a very strong difference between these two signs. You have Capricorn also is dominated more by the career-related matters, and Cancer more, of course, is very introverted, a homebody. Capricorn can be introverted as well, but they're more dominated by the business element of things. Capricorn may unwittingly hurt Cancer's feelings from time to time, and Cancer might be a little bit too, just generally too emotional for Capricorn in a lot of situations. Capricorn, of course, can be a lot more disciplined in their energy than Cancer, and sadly, Cancer will often act on how they feel and their emotion. Capricorn will only act in many instances with a lot of after pondering something after a lot of premeditation and planning. Some of you may remember the epic battles that Michael Cancer Ascendant NBA legend / Cancer Ascendant Michael Jordan had against Reggie Miller, who Reggie Miller has a Capricorn rising. Their ascendants were actually made a very tight opposition to each other. And some of you may remember that epic actual physical confrontation they had when Michael Jordan had punched Reggie Miller. And this really showed the sensitivity of Cancerian energy. Reggie Miller was one of the few people that probably had the ability to get under Michael Jordan's skin. Ironically enough, Reggie Miller, Capricorn rising, Capricorn, of course, is connected with the skin. He got under Michael Jordan's very thin Cancerian ascendant skin pretty easily, sadly, and that was the thing. But Michael Jordan did not want any, was not going to have any part of that. And of course, Michael Jordan's Cancer ascendant strongly came out in that moment, unleashing all that strong emotional energy. Anyway, well, next up, as far as least compatible zodiac signs go, I'm going to go Taurus and Aquarius are very incompatible. You have the two signs. It's similar situation to Taurus and Leo, because Aquarius, even though they're an air sign, they're very fixed in their beliefs, no matter how radical or bizarre or non-conforming it may seem. Taurus is very set in what the true things that have been true and the tried. Taurus is the kind of energy that may be putting a coil spring in the car with a hammer and screwdriver, and Aquarius is using the coil spring compressor. Or Aquarius is more about modern innovations, and they're forward moving. Aquarius can also, like, I mean, like, you know how a lot of these cars are now connected to the internet and they're being diagnosed via the internet through computers. Well, Taurus may be the one that would rather have an older car where they wouldn't have to worry about that, and they could go to local mechanics to get their car diagnosed and ascertain what's wrong with them. The thing what makes these signs so exceptionally incompatible is the fact that Taurus is so set in their true and their tried ways. They could come across as very monotonous to Aquarius, and Aquarius, of course, is more unpredictable. They're very unorthodox, and their surprising behavior, shocking behavior, will shock Taurus big time. And Taurus, and of course Aquarius is very futuristic. They're progressive, they're forward moving, and Taurus unfortunately can be rather stagnant. They kind of want to stay in what's cozy to them. Taurus can be rather complacent. Hold on a moment, people. Sorry about that, I'm back. And both signs, of course, are often unwilling to give in. Taurus is just, I mean, again, going back to the fact they're just downright obstinate and stubborn. And Aquarius, even though they're an air sign, they could be a lot more fixed than what a lot of others may believe on under a first, as opposed to the first impression they get from Aquarius is very amiable. They're very friendly. I've talked about them having that universal friend syndrome, basically. And Taurus, of course, is very limited on their friends in many instances. I could empathize and relate to that. Of course, having a Taurus Ascendant, I have very few friends in my life. I don't even have many people that I socialize with consistently. So that is where these two can often find conflicts. So anyway, last but not least, as far as least compatible zodiac signs go, I would go with Aries and Cancer. I see, I mean, based on my experience, especially me being a sun in Cancer, Aries has been one of the worst as far as compatibility goes for me, has been one of the worst signs for me. And the thing about it is Aries can just be very brusque. They could bruise Cancer, figuratively speaking, very easily. They can get under vulnerable Cancer's skin very quickly. Cancer may come across as overly dependent for self-reliant and independent Aries. And Aries, I mean, both signs, don't get me wrong, both signs being cardinal signs, they could be very action-oriented and want to do, or want to be busy doing a lot of things. But Aries, even more so, I would say, than Cancer. Aries is often very busy, very active. They don't like stagnation. Cancer, being a little bit more introverted, they're a little bit more about the home. And I think, too, when you look at Aries, they're a lot more impatient than Cancer is, too. Aries likes to get things done very quickly. Cancer sometimes may procrastinate, take their time a little. Cancer might be rebuffed and put off by Aries, given the fact that they might be overly pushy for Cancer. And again, going back to Cancer, may be overly dependent and emotionally needy for Aries. Aries is not really, doesn't generally have an abundance of sympathy, but Cancer has a lot of sympathy. And the thing about it is that is where these two can strongly conflict, because Aries may not quite understand Cancer being very sympathetic and nurturing that they are, and Aries does not really emphasize that in their nature. And don't get me wrong, Aries actually can show certain compassion in other ways. They do it more through their actions, like standing up for others, showing a lot of courage and fortitude, standing up for they're often the ones that will fight on someone else's behalf when others will be stagnant and not even want to do anything to stand up for that individual. But Aries shows it more that way, and through monetary means as well. Aries is actually, I think, one of the more generous zodiac signs. Leo, I think, is Aquarius probably would say is almost unequivocally the most generous, but Aries can be right up there too. Aries is not really that overly concerned about money, and Aries, they are ones that one of the one signs up there that could actually be good, even though Aries can come across as rather brusque and abrasive to others. They are often one of the ones that will be first. I mean, they like to be first. They may be one of the first people to help you in terms of a loan if you're in a situation where you're in a state of destitute or what have you in your penury state. So anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, people, Edwin Learnard saying stay well.